So what's up guys, Seiishizo here, another video. This is the first video I make since that I posted it on Reddit and it got so much positive feedback. Like thank you all for that, thank you for subscribing, thank you for sharing it, maybe upvoting it, everything makes me super excited to make more content for you guys to share some of the G3, D2 knowledge. So yeah, I kind of came up with this series and it's gonna be RTA playing tips. And it's simply gonna be 10 to 15 minute long videos per tip. It's gonna focus on one part of RTA, not necessarily any matches, or maybe in other tips, but just focusing on the context of how do you prepare for a match, how do you prepare your account for a match, how to rune certain things, what to look at, what are good picks and bans, know what you should do in what kind of situations and stuff like that. So throughout the tips, it's probably going to be a series of, I got 5 or 6 in mind right now. Maybe as time goes on, I will be adding more and more and more. I'm also not planning to just rush them all, to bring all the videos out right away, I guess, but just making them tip by tip and see where it goes from that. So I think I got some interesting information on that. So tip number 1, know your game. And that sounds really fake, but it is a reason. There is a reason that I start with this as first. Knowing your game, knowing what you should be doing to win is by far the most important thing in any kind of sports activities or even businesses or school or whatever. Know what you should do, know how to win, and know what are your options, what are your possibilities, how does things work. So in case of Summoner's War and RTA, it's your monsters and your runes. Every account is different. Even if you have let's say you have most of the main RTA mobs, so you have a Molong, you have a Gani, you have a Hathor, you have a Diana, you have a Tiana, Jian, name it. Still, if person A has that, person B has that, there's still gonna be a big difference between rune qualities, amount of violence sets, speed sets, that kind of stuff. So that part comes in know your game. So like I was saying, every account is different, right? I cannot assume that you have all the OP monsters for RTA, but you probably have some. You have some that probably work, and you got to see what you can do with those. And according to those, you have to build a team around them. You put your best runes on them. Of course, if you really want to go for RTA, you gotta kind of forget the siege, kind of gotta forget the guild wars and stuff like that. And you really gotta put your best runes on your RTA units. But also, instead of just giving the best runes to your best units, you gotta make sure you're building teams. Everyone always keeps saying that, but it's true. You gotta build teams. Everything's gotta work together. It's pretty much rune removal is one gigantic puzzle, multiplied by the amount of monsters that you want to rune, multiplied by the amount of runes that you have, and it's an insanely big puzzle. And that's something you gotta solve every month, I guess. So because every account is that different, it's different mobs, different runes, different rune qualities, also different rune sets which really shine or don't shine, which I will talk about in a second. So I cannot just say hey, you rune this monster like this, and this one like this and this, and you will win. No, it doesn't work like that. And that's what makes this interesting, right? So what I was saying, every account has a few rune sets which you don't really aim for, but you simply get, and they're OP, right? So that's also knowing your game, knowing your account. What are these rune sets? Maybe your account has a really good vampire set, like this. For example, Garo, really good monster. Not one of the best in my opinion. I kind of see him fail more and more lately, but he's insanely strong, and he worked out and he helped me out a lot, really a lot. I wouldn't have built him if I didn't have this of an OP set. It doesn't look like that much stats, but if you check these runes individually, these are all insane runes pretty much. So the reason I built him and I used him a lot, or still use him a lot, is because my account apparently has really good violent revenge set, which is the best on Garo. So make use of that. Let's say you have a super good Nemesis set. Check where you can fit that in, because your account is not going to be Violent, Swift, and Will, because those are the main runes. Maybe you have a super good Despair set. Maybe you can work in like Hachimini or something. And those are the kind of things you gotta look out for. And that's when you know your game. Like, you know to apply these runes into RTA. Maybe use less meta units, but you make them work because the rune quality is that good. So another thing is, check out what you see in the notepad, right? You see what's happening. A lot of these RTA units simply need Violent Will or Violent something and a Speed HP. There's gonna be an issue for your account. That's pretty much on any account, right? There's probably none account that has like all best Violent sets and no other sets whatsoever. So for that reason, you gotta check like, okay, hey, where can I switch out some Violent runes or switch out certain stats of runes? So I can put these runes on someone else or somewhere else. Let's say you have like all of the OP monsters. There's gonna be some out there. So let's say you can make all of those units, you have all of them, you can make them all plus 120 speed. I know a lot of you are gonna say like, hey, I don't have all of them. It's just an example. It's just an example. You're probably gonna have at least a shit ton of monsters that want to use Violent Will's speed HP. So just for this example, let's say you can do this times 5. But then you have like 5 mediocre monsters, at least for like G1, G2. G3 for sure. So let's say you would do this 2 times and you could make it 150. Maybe not really the case, but simply said, right? So you see what I'm doing here. But then you gotta use, when you're saying like, hey, then I gotta remove some of the fire runes, right? Or will. It's like, yeah, you do. But let's say, for example, you can make 2 of those 150, and you could say like, okay, Hafthor, I would put you on Swift, and I have some Swift leftovers, and I can easily do that. But because of that, my Molong could be like 20 speed more, and the Genny could be 20 speed more. That would be super interesting. So, and also like, Genny, does he really need the HP? Is Def HP fine? Yes, it is perfectly fine. So that's where you gotta check in like, hey, or maybe let's see like, okay, Genny, maybe I don't put you on Will, but I put you on Focus or Broken or anything like that. So the most optimal set for a lot of units is of course the Violent Will. But it's not always like feasible. You're not gonna have 4 or 5 or 6 Violent Will sets which are your best runes, because that's just not possible, right? So you gotta check like, hey, where can I fit in runes that are different? Or maybe I put someone that's normally on Violent, I put like a really swift or like a really fast Swift Hathor. Or maybe you say like, hey, because that's also the thing, like I say Swift Hathor right now, but maybe you say like, no, I got like a super good like Swift Will set for like Molong, because like the subs that are like insanely high on HP and still has Aki, a little bit of defense, stuff like that. So you also got to check like, hey, where does it fit best? If you go like off meta sets, check where it fits best. Don't just say like, okay, then I'll just try this because he said like try it on Swift or something. No, check like, where does it fit best, or where do you have the best rune quality? It's really important. Know your rune quality, know where to place it, that your overall, your whole team has like the highest quality possible. And that's mainly where I'm going to know your game. Get the highest rune quality on all of the units that you use for RTA. Or also another option for your runes is like, let's say you have Wusa, Vela, and Fest, Amelia. You have all of the immunity uses, right? Why do you need Will so much then? You could use Will on like 1 or 2 units, but if you're mainly picking immunity users and they're fast enough that the enemy doesn't go before that, and you can just say like, hey, also for your whole account, hey, I would focus like less on Necro. I do more dragons, I do more giants. And that's just your way to go, because your immunity is taken care of by these units that you have already. So you don't actually need to focus on necro. Another really good thing for just knowing your game, knowing what's going on, knowing what to focus on, knowing also which dungeons to run, which matter the most for your account and the value of your account. Another really important part to knowing your game is, what do you pick first? You have 5 options to pick. What do you pick first? And the simplest thing is, your first 3 picks, in my opinion, at least the first 2, should always be picks that are your best runed units and they work everywhere. So often it's the most meta units and the most often first picks obvious, like the Genny, Hathor, Molong, that kind of stuff. But let's say you have a super good Ciara, you can just always first pick Ciara. That's not a big deal at all. Like, if you have an insanely good Ciara, first picker. If you say like, hey, I always have some kind of strip, I have some kind of protection around her, she always makes it work, she has a really good win rate for me, just first picker, that's not a big deal. But the thing is, like, the moment, let's say you would have a Molong, Genny, Hathor, you don't pick them, you gotta be expecting that the enemy is picking them, especially like G2 and up, everyone has these monsters. So, and then after you pick like your pocket picks, your units that you know, hey, these 2, these 3 are gonna work, either if it's like non-meta at all. If you just pick something that's, can't really think of that. Let's say you have like by far the best Garo in the server. Let's say something stupid. Of course, Garo's like easily counterable, and it's probably not the best option for that. But let's say you have the best Garo in the server, and you can easily, like, you have like all of the ways to protect him. If he goes like chilling and a Miang and stuff like that, you have those options to easily counter those. You could technically just pick Garo if it mainly works for you, if it has like a high win rate. That's really important. Don't just pick anything because it's high efficient in like rune quality, because some of these units are easier counterable than others. For example, Genny, Molong, Hathor, those kind of units are difficult to counter. Yes, I keep saying like the super OP RTA units. That's true. Probably you might have them, you might not have them. Let's see it in this way. There's gonna be insanely a lot of people that have those units, and a lot of those are not in G1 or not in G2. So they're doing something wrong. So even for these people is this video. It's not like you have XYZ monster and you're gonna get there. Maybe with some of the LB net 5s it's more easy, but besides that, you always gotta know what you're doing. You always gotta put like really good speed tuning in there. You gotta know what to pick. And after you had these pocket picks, right, you gotta know your counters. So for me, I mostly go like 2 or 3 picks that works against everything, and I don't switch that much in those. I could, like, if they steal one, I just start countering pretty much, because I know my units, but I also know, because I also lose with them, I also know the counters on them, right? So the thing is, then you start countering the monsters that the enemy picks. So let's see, it goes immunity, you go anti-immunity by strippers or stuff like that. I'm not gonna go in specific like X counters Y and Z counters Y and Y counters Z, that kind of stuff. But you know what I'm saying, it's, you always have to have like a bright idea of, okay, what do I want to pick, what do I want to ban. And this is a mistake that I mostly see in Conqueror players. They just have 5 monsters, they just spam 5 monsters into like pretty much any setup they can find. It works for a lot of the cases, but you're gonna end up with like, let's say at some point you're gonna be on your top just by spamming those units. You will go a bit up, you will go a bit down, you will go a bit up, you will go a bit down, but you're gonna stay at the same level. You're gonna, unless you have an insanely good team, insanely good rune, you're not gonna improve. Never. You gotta know at some point, like, okay, this is my standard team, but I use the first 2-3 units, and if he picks this, I pick this as counter. Boom, you're up, right? And if he picks this and this, I pick this account. Boom, again, like G1 from Conqueror, easy. And so on, so on. Just know what you're gonna do. You only have 30 seconds per pick. It sounds like a lot, but it's actually not. Like, you gotta prepare, you gotta know, like, okay, if in the second round, the second or third pick, if I go water units, he's probably gonna go wind units in the next round. And so then I like counter those wind units with fire units. And that's also, it's like playing chess. And you force people into certain picks. So for example, you go a team that's super counterable by Diana, but then you have like the best counter on Diana. For example, some people like to use an Entrance. Let's say you have a super good Entrance. So in the first couple of picks, you're gonna force to like, hey, if you have a Diana, you wanna use it. You're gonna have to use it. And then boom, you pick this one as final pick. So you force them into a pick which you already know you're gonna counter because you planned for it. Of course, you're not gonna know exactly what they're gonna do, but I noticed for myself, at some point you play a lot, you watch a lot of replays, you're gonna be good at predicting, like, okay, if this is picked, then this is picked after, and then this is picked after, and so on. And as final thing about knowing your game, if stuff doesn't work, try something new. It sounds really simple, but that also comes to the thing, like, don't just spam the same 5 units. Let's say your pocket perks maybe not really working. Let's say you're always first picking Sierra, but it's not really working for you. Try something else. Try one of your other units. Maybe Nokiano's first pick, or maybe you just like to play with like the Triana, Vanessa. Those are good first picks, and quite some of the people have them. Let's say you don't have like all of the OP units. This is actually a super solid first pick. Let's say you don't have a lot of the OP units. She definitely is a solid first pick. Vanessa is a really solid first pick. The reason why they're solid first picks, or like early picks, is because they work with everything. They got a little bit of damage, they got their CC, they're annoying, they got their anti-kill, they got their healing, stuff like that, super big time scaling, like late game, because this one scales of speed, of course. So to wrap it up, know your game, check your game. So check out the other videos as well that are coming. This is just the tip of the iceberg of like ideas of like how to play RTA, how to step up your game, how to go from like Conqueror to Guardian, from Guardian 1 to Guardian 2, stuff like that. These are just simple, informative videos, but the main thing I want to do is not say like, hey, use this. I want you to think about your account, your runes, your quality, and where does it has like, how do you fit the puzzle the best together to get to that next level.